So a lot of us are building with AI right now, but let's be honest, it can feel pretty chaotic, can't it? We're just generating endless summaries, spinning up rapid prototypes, but with no real clear goal. It feels like we're just manufacturing noise. Well, today we're going to fix that. We are going to break down how you, as a builder, can correctly apply the Think framework. It's a playbook designed to bring some serious purpose and clarity back to your work with AI. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about this new bottleneck that AI has actually created for all of us. Then, we're going to walk through the Think framework step by step. We'll cover finding the real problem, naming the specific decision your work has to support, and, crucially, defining what success actually looks like. And then, we'll wrap it all up with a super simple checklist you can start using pretty much immediately. For the longest time, the main thing holding us back when building anything was just execution speed. How fast could we code? How fast could we write? How fast could we analyze? Well, AI has completely flipped that script. Now, generating output, that's the cheap part. It's incredibly fast. The real challenge, the new bottleneck, is something way more fundamental. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the issue. When we don't have clarity, our default is just activity. We start prompting and designing and coding just to show that we're making progress, but we don't have a shared understanding of what actually matters. And this, of course, leads to a massive amount of wasted effort. And this pattern leads to some seriously frustrating situations, right? We use these incredibly powerful tools to efficiently solve a problem that wasn't even the real issue to begin with. We create these beautifully polished slide decks that don't actually help anyone make a choice. And maybe worst of all, the tool starts dictating our strategy because we never bothered to set a clear intention from the get-go. So how do we fix this mess? Well, the antidote is a simple but really powerful discipline for orientation called the Think framework. Think of this as the foundation that prevents all that downstream work from becoming fragile and, well, hollow. It's all about getting oriented before you hit the accelerator. Now, let's be super clear on this. Think isn't about adding more work or more bureaucracy. Not at all. It's about asking the really essential questions up front to build a shared understanding. It's the discipline of agreeing on what matters before you open a single tool or write a single line of code. And this brings us to the first and honestly the most frequently skipped step of the entire playbook. Before we even think about prompts or solutions, we have to find our purpose. We have to nail down the real problem we're trying to solve. This question seems so obvious, which is exactly why it gets overlooked so often. We tend to mistake a stakeholder's request or a manager's task for the actual underlying problem. A request to build a dashboard isn't the problem. It's a signal that the team is missing visibility into something that's broken. That's the real problem. Okay, check this out. The difference here is night and day. Improve onboarding experience is, well, it's a vague wish, but framing it as new users drop off before completing account setup, now that gives us a specific failure, a clear user group, and a concrete outcome to fix. Just by doing this, we've already applied a powerful constraint that focuses all our efforts. So here's a practical template for you to use. Before you start any project, just try to answer these 4 questions in plain language. If you can do this, you've successfully moved from a fuzzy request to a grounded problem. And now you're ready to aim your AI at a target that actually matters. All right, let's move to the next pillar of the framework. Once the problem is clear, the goal isn't just to create an output, like a document or a prototype. The goal is to drive an outcome. And that almost always means enabling a specific decision. Most of the work we do exists to help someone make a choice, whether to invest, whether to change direction, or maybe to approve a launch. When we don't explicitly name that decision, our work just loses its center of gravity, and any AI-generated content quickly turns into more noise. And this just illustrates the point perfectly. Asking an AI to create a summary is totally directionless, but asking it to create a summary so that leadership can make a specific Q2 roadmap decision, well, that gives the AI a clear job to do. It's no longer just a content generator. It's a decision support tool. So, before you start building, ask yourself these questions. Who is this really for, and what choice are they facing? Answering this helps ensure that every piece of output you create with AI is directly tied to moving the business forward in a real, tangible way. Okay, and finally, even with a clear problem and a named decision, we can still fail if our definition of success is all vague and fuzzy. We need to move from intentions like, make it better, to objective, evaluable criteria. We often use words like better engagement or stronger alignment. But what do those actually mean? Here's a simple test for you. Could two reasonable people look at your output and disagree on whether it was successful? If the answer is yes, your definition just isn't sharp enough. Let's look at this comparison. Stakeholders feel informed. I mean, that's impossible to measure, but defining success as leadership agreeing on a specific roadmap item, that creates a clear finish line. This is all about choosing your constraints. You've defined the win condition, giving both you and your AI a clear target to hit. This template forces you to be specific. By defining what should be true, what action should follow, and even what failure looks like, you create a really clear boundary for your work. This makes evaluation possible and turns AI into a precision instrument. So, we've covered the entire think discipline. Let's distill all of this down into a simple, memorable checklist you can use every single day before you jump into execution mode. Before you start anything, just pause and run through these 4 questions. Seriously, if the answer to any of them is no, that's a huge signal to slow down. That brief pause to gain clarity will save you hours of wasted effort down the line. And that last point on constraints is so key. Things like budget, timeline, or scope, they aren't obstacles to avoid. They are tools to focus your creativity. Choosing them intentionally is what makes execution faster and better, not slower. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The Think framework isn't about bureaucracy. It's about risk management. In a world where AI lets us move at incredible speeds, moving in the right direction has never been more critical. Speed without orientation isn't just inefficient, it's dangerous. So the question to leave you with is this: are you building with orientation, or are you just moving fast?